In this lesson, we'll review founding documents reading questions. This is part of the dual passage. And just to review, there's always one dual passage on the test. Every SAT that has been released, the dual passage has involved this founding documents or the Great Global Conversation, an archaic passage, two different passages, different points of view, and a good technique I recommend when answering these, instead of reading both passages at once, is just reading passage one and then finding questions that independently deal with one, then read two for the first time, find the independent questions with two, and then compare and contrast. But after reading one, keep in mind that they're pretty much contrasting positions. Just after reading one, there's a good chance you can predict two. And so for this exercise, we're going to do the first few questions. I know I normally do one in these videos, but we'll do the first three. And so what we're going to do is we're only going to read passage one. So one, here's the reference information is adapted from Talleyrand et al. Report on Public Instruction, published in 1791. Two is from Mary Wollstonecraft, A Vindication of Rights of Women, originally published in 1792. Talleyrand was a diplomat, a French diplomat, and the report was a plan for national education. And Wollstonecraft, a British novelist and political writer, wrote Vindication in response. And this is what I mean, that there's going to be contrasting. It's a good chance you can predict two without even reading it, just from reading one. And so just take a moment and read one on your own. And you could just pause the video. I just want you to read one on your own. And then I'll scroll down a little bit more so you can see the rest of the passage. And there's a little bit more here. 40 is the end of it. Again, just, all right. So I assume you've read it. And I'm just going to skim over the very beginning of it, and we're going to answer the first few questions. And then you'll see it's a good chance you can predict two before even starting it. That half the human race is excluded by the other half from any participation in government. They are native by birth, but foreign in law in the very land where they were born, that they are property owners yet have no direct influence or representation, are all political phenomenon apparently impossible to explain on abstract principle. But on another level of idea, the question changes may easily be resolved. The purpose of these institutions must be the happiness of the greatest number. Everything that leads us farther from this purpose is an error. Everything that brings us closer is truth. Is exclusion from public employments decreed against women leads to a greater sum of mutual happiness for the two sexes, then this becomes a law that all societies have been compelled to acknowledge and sanction. And here, this is a key paragraph here, this small paragraph. Any other ambition would be a reversal of our primary destinies, and it is will never be in women's interest to change the assignment they have received. And so obviously this is written, it's an old passage, it's written a few hundred years ago. Primary destinies, exclusion from half of participation in government. This is about women, how they are not considered equal. And he's saying that the best way to explain it is a greater sum of mutual happiness, and this is the primary, he uses the phrase, right, it's their primary destiny. And you could see this sort of seems like a sexist statement, especially in this day and age. But remember, this was written 200 years ago, and he's justifying why women don't have the same rights as men. So we're going to do the first few questions here. Let's do 31. As used in 21, what does common mean? This is just a word in context. In line 21, what does common mean? Any other ambition would be reversal of our primary destinies. It will never be in women's interest to change the assignment they have received. It seems to us incontestable that our common happiness above all that of women requires that they never aspire to the exercise of political rights and functions. So common here, right, you can almost predict this. That means shared, right? It means common, that they both have it. Shared, it's not average or rough or coarse or similar. It's definitely B. But then I'm going to do two more questions. I'm not going to do all of these. I'll just do these next two. But this is a two-part question, 32 and 33. Remember, always just scan down. It's a two-part question. It can be inferred that the authors of one believe that running a household and raising children are what? And this is only one. And we know one feels that women don't have the same rights, and because it's their primary destiny. And running a household, we're looking for some evidence what he believes that running a household entails. And so you want to find the evidence first. And we know it's between 4 and 35. Okay, so 4, I don't think there's any evidence in the beginning about running a household. It's a little later on, wasn't it? And so you can kind of skim through this here. So around here, around 24, 25, here we must seek their interest. Women's interest is the wishes of nature. It is not is it not apparent that their delicate constitution, their peaceful inclinations, and their many duties of motherhood set them apart from the strenuous habits and onerous duties that summon them to the gentle occupation and the cares of the home? This is the phrase here, sort of a long rhetorical question saying that taking care of domestic duties are not as difficult, right? Set them apart from the strenuous activities, the onerous or burdensome duties, that they're gentle occupations, that's their primary destiny. And so the evidence here for 33 is C, right? That's that long rhetorical question. They're delicate constitutions, and it is not onerous or strenuous. And so what does he believe that running a household and raising children are? Well, if he says it's less strenuous and onerous, are rewarding for men as well as women, no, yield less value than to the roles of men, entail very few activities that are difficult, right? This is a paraphrase for strenuous or unpleasant. And again, you may not agree with this, and I always tell students you want to kind of remove your own ideas, especially in the 21st century compared to this archaic passage. But he's making the statement, yes, men and women are different because that's their primary destiny. And here, I'm just going to stop. I'm not going to answer any more questions here, but this is what I mean. If you do one passage at a time and just answer questions from passage 1, you can almost predict what 2's position is. Remember, 2 is written by a woman, Wollstonecraft, and she wrote this in response. What do you think her position is going to be? Well, you can almost predict that she believes that men and women are equal and they deserve all the same rights. Again, you're obviously going to read 2, but it's typically a good technique. And every single SAT that's been released, the dual passage has been in this topic, this founding document. So just keep that in mind.